Welcome to another episode of the Voices of the Learning Network podcast. Hey guys, this is Bill Banham, your host today, and joining me on the show is the amazing, wonderful, fantastic Kelsey Cates, founder of Playfully Works, and until pretty recently, global head of learning experiences over at Google. During her time at Google, Kelsey led a global team delivering more than 1,000 live learning experiences each year to over 30,000 employees across technical, sales, and strategy roles. Her programs didn't just scale, they landed with standout engagement scores, measurable confidence lifts, and multiple industry awards. But along the way, Kelsey uncovered something many of us in L&D have probably felt but struggled to articulate. What's that, Bill? Well, somewhere between the slide decks and KPIs, workplace learning lost its sense of play. Now, Kelsey's on a mission to bring it back, combining neuroscience, human connection, and serious learning design to help organizations create experiences that actually stick. And in this conversation, we're going to explore what HR and L&D leaders can learn from Google's approach to learning at scale, why play isn't a nice to have, but a biological advantage, and how to design learning cultures that people genuinely want to be a part of. Kelsey, how are you doing?
I think you might have said incredible, but you didn't say fantastic, or you did either way. But I'm blushing over here. I'm doing great, and I am so ready to dig in with you.
All right. Well, I'm sorry if I didn't use all of the right words to describe how fantastic you are, but rest assured, listeners, I have a very high opinion of Kelsey. Why do I have such a high opinion of Kelsey? Because we recently hung out and had loads of fun in beautiful Dublin, Ireland, where you were a speaker at our relaunch Disrupt Dublin event. What a wonderful job. You were amazing. Thank you again. Just very briefly, tell our listeners a bit about how you connected and the talk that you did in Dublin.
Okay. So I have been speaking for 5+ years, dozens of stages. My heart rate was like I did a morning jog for an hour before I got on stage, Bill. I think you knew this. My mic was literally shaking. I wanted to get all of those 5 minutes right. But gosh, what a challenge. And I was up for it. And I got to talk about playfulness, of course.
Excellent. It was a fun time, listeners. Let's focus on the main crux of today's conversation. Let's start by talking about from Google to Playfully Works. So you spent over a decade building large-scale, high-impact learning experiences over at Google, Kelsey. What were the biggest lessons from the environment that shaped your thinking about what actually works in workplace learning today?
It's not going to be what you expect. One of the things that I really, really take away, no matter where you work, right, whether it's Google or a startup or a nonprofit, and I work with tons of organizations now, when you go into a meeting, when you go into a training, so much of what you go into and your openness to is what mood and emotions you have, what happened before, what's going on in your life. And how in the corporate world, we don't even care. We don't ask. We don't apply any of that. You could have gotten 2 hours of sleep. You could have a sick baby. You could have had a horrible conversation with your boss. And you need to sign up and you need to check those boxes and do that training. And we don't care. And I think that's such a miss. And so that's something that I'm so excited to play with and challenge. And it doesn't need to be deep and it doesn't need to be long. But when we do that, when we create the space, there's so much more potential and outcomes and connection that are possible, whether it's a meeting or a one-on-one with your boss or a great training experience.
Okay, very good. So let's talk about the serious work fallacy. There's a long-standing belief that if you have to be serious that you do have to be serious to do serious work. But based on your experiences at Google and beyond, why is that mindset may be flawed? And how do you convince skeptical leaders that playfulness doesn't undermine performance?
For all you listeners out there that are curious if someone just emailed you actually, or if it's just the AI response and they didn't even read the email, that's precisely why, right? When we adult humans, right, when we are professional mammals and we go into work, we have kind of a shield on, or sometimes we think of it as a cage, and we show up as so professional that even though we wrote an email, you could have thought that AI wrote that email. It doesn't feel human. And at some point, that professionalism strips us of our humanity. And so our creativity, our innovation, our connection, it feels stifled. And actually, they did a great new study in September that shows there's empiric evidence. We can link to it in the show notes that in a competitive environment, and what environment isn't competitive in work these days, when you show up as authentically playful, that authentic piece is important, right? It needs to resonate with you and how you are. You are actually seen with greater trust, greater authenticity, greater likability as a leader in spite of your playfulness, because you are doing it knowing you're taking a social risk, right? And so you're able to build those connections and that safety that allows the people around you to want to do their best work. That's not true when they think AI wrote your meeting notes or sent you an email.
Let's now talk about designing learning that scales and lands. So you were delivering 1,000 plus learning experiences annually to tens of thousands of Googlers, as I mentioned in the intro. For our learning network audience, Kelsey, what are the key principles for designing learning at scale that feels human, is engaging,
So
and can be impactful?
for all of those instructional designers of the room, or with those in deep background on the design side of things, let me say, yes, do you need Bloom's taxonomy? Do you need good outcomes? Do you need measurability and pre-test? Yes. And what do you need that we don't see enough of? Facilitators using your name, facilitators asking you why you are there, really starting the experience so you have a clear why. There's what it's in for you. You're not 39 minutes in talking about the content and the credibility of the facilitator where no one's engaged you. Right within so what I led our certification program at Google for facilitators, we say within the first 5 minutes, you need to get people's voice in. And the more you get them engaged from the beginning, they're more likely to stay engaged. So yes to all the standard things, but most importantly, you need to create safety and connection in the room so they feel like there's purpose.
So you've described play as a kind of reset button for the brain. How can L&D leaders practically use play to help employees get unstuck, maybe build confidence and accelerate learning, especially in high pressure environments?
So I'm recognizing I'm being quite serious and not so playful in what I'm doing. So I'm going to improve that as we keep having a conversation. But that reset button. So say you're coming out of a serious meeting or a serious training, or you took an online training and it felt very stiff and robotic. When we engage in play, and by the way, when I say playfulness, I'm not talking about gamifying things or having tons of click buttons or a leaderboard. Like, sure, that could be a part of it. But if you're walking away saying that's the takeaway, it's not. It's a lightheartedness, curiosity, experimental, or relaxed mindset. That's what we're talking about here. When I can show up as that way, as a leader in a learning program with you, as a peer learning next to you, what I'm doing is I'm actually signaling that we can make mistakes together, that we can do something silly and I'm not being judged. And when I'm in that state, right, I'm thinking from my prefrontal cortex. I'm in a place where I can have more long-term processing thoughts and be more strategic and have that learning sink in deeper and more meaningful, because I'm not worried about being ridiculed or judged if I make a silly mistake. But we do a horrible job at creating space for that, particularly in corporate learning settings, right? We like to think it's learning, but really what we're doing so much is like, you're on performance for learning, not, hey, this is a place where we get to make mistakes together. What a freaking privilege.
I believe that you use a pet frog example as part of your work. That sounds awesome. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I was hoping you'd use that question. Thanks, Bill. All right. So this is actually some research done several years ago by some folks in the field. Yes, there's a field of playfulness. And they did just a simple comparison that says, hey, please go buy this $1 million thing. And they got responses back. And it was this simple. Hey, this is $1 million. We'd like you to buy this. And if you do it today, we'll throw in our pet frog. Again, we can link this in the show notes. Good evidence here. Unequivocally, people were more engaged to buy something when they said, we're going to do it with a pet frog. right? And there's nothing changed. The offer didn't change, but the connection and the rapport with the person, right? The lightheartedness, the humanity in which it was portrayed by that one simple phrase of with a pet frog got people's voices changing. So if you are working perhaps in sales training, which I did a lot at Google, how do you take that learning and build it into what you're doing? Where can you tell a story? And don't start by saying, I'm going to tell you a story. Where can you know something about your audience? Say they love sailing or football, and you can build in an analogy. Where can you play with their side of humor and what they think is funny? That is building that. That's a playful way to build connection and rapport and trust that feels, again, I'm going to keep going back to this AI. It feels like AI didn't do it and that you're actually working with a human. We see empiric results from showing up with that way with a little bit of humor when you personalize it for that audience.
Let's now talk about practical moves for L&D leaders. It's important for us on this show to offer some tangible takeaways for our listeners, Kelsey. So for listeners in the Learning Network who want to maybe start shifting their culture, what are 2 or 3 simple practical things that they can do in the next few months to bring more playfulness into their learning experiences without it feeling like a gimmick? And you mentioned earlier on that folks are taking a bit of a risk when they enter into this playful mindset. So what are 2 or 3 simple practical things that they can start doing soon that will make a difference?
Heck yes to the practical things, and a double down on this isn't a gimmick. It shouldn't feel cringy. This isn't forced fun. That's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about a how. And so if you're a leader in L&D space, an individual contributor in your meetings, in the way you conduct your team, or I'm going to speak specifically to live learnings, though please know that this can apply in the kind of digital e-learning space as well. But there's loads you can do that are little uncringy bits. So one of the things I did with my leadership team, no matter how busy and how many agenda items we have, or leading a global team where it was 9 p.m. for someone and 7 a.m. for someone else, we always started with a purposeful primer. This is Google's way of saying icebreaker, because icebreaker's cringy, but it's something that also connects to the content, right? So if I'm analyzing something, I could ask my team, what do you overanalyze? And again, that's me getting everyone engaged, but something personal. So can you do that in your team meeting? Can you do that in your live learnings? Again, you're getting their voice in, and it can be something really, really quick in terms of what you're doing. Movement. We forget about this because we sit in the corporate world. I was actually auditing a sales training the other day, and I sat in my seat for 7 hours. We use data, right? And so instead of saying 98% of all people, use the challenge. What percentage of all people? And put a line out there. Say this side of the room is 0. This side of the room is 100. And literally get them up to move and have their bodies be what they think. And then unpack that, right? Or you could put, instead of multiple choice where they put that on their phone or they raise their hand or you're telling them the answer, put it in the 4 corners of the room. Get them to move their body and what they're doing, right? There's so much to be said when you're literally having bilateral movement, when you're opening up your brain for new stimulus and new looking at things. This one is so little and silly, and you wouldn't think of it. It actually comes from Andrew Huberman. But if folks are on a mobile phone or on a small screen, we actually are getting like apnea from that. And our eye aperture is so small that it's not allowing us to breathe properly and get the blood flow in our brain. So literally just looking up or looking away from the screen. If you're designing programs and it's all screens or all slides all the time, literally get your audience to move away from that and change their line of focus will change their brain kind of focus and where they're going with things so they can be more receptive to new information. All right. How are we doing, Bill? One more or stick there?
Yeah, give us one more. Go for it.
All right. Now I'm on the spot because I'm like, okay, I said you want more, and now I need to give you one more. Let's think of a really good one. This is one of my favorites. Where can you show them, not tell them? Right. So if you're bringing up a topic and you want to talk about valuable feedback, you could have a really serious conversation about why feedback's valuable, or you could do something like this. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. Now take it just right. And then you could be like, give me some feedback. What did you like? What do you challenge me to do? I did this with my team. And they challenged me. They said, we need you to rap it. We need intonation. We need you to say all the words correctly, right? This is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. So much different. So where can you show people versus just tell them?
It's amazing. I'm a man in my early 40s now. I learned every word to The Fresh Prince when I was about, I don't know, 13, 14. And for some reason, we put it on YouTube the other day for my kids, and I still knew every word. What about that?
Oh, Bill, I'm going to send you a picture afterwards. They made me dress the part. So it's also, I also know all the words.
We are already coming towards the end of this particular conversation. Just a couple of questions for you before we do wrap up. So a lot of the Learning Network's members are independents or in small companies who then work with large organizations on their L&D programs. You are, of course, a new founder. You set up the business at the start of 2026. For you in 2026, as a respected L&D professional who's starting your own thing, what are some of the biggest challenges, but also some of the biggest opportunities available to you?
I'm so excited about doing my own thing. And one of the things that I'm really, really playing with is right now. So I'm more or less selling playfulness, right? But no one buys playfulness. That's not a thing. And so if I can equate it to like the painkiller vitamin world, like I'm off selling some kind of weird collagen, I need to be changing my message. So I'm talking to people about how I'm an aspirin, right? What is the pain that I'm solving for them? And so getting really clear on how I talk about what I can solve for others. By the way, that's like safety, innovation, collaboration, boring engagement. That's how I'm leaning into it. But just getting really clear on the narrative for what it means for your customers and clients and not what it means for you.
Rock and roll. And just finally for today, then, what's coming up for you, Kelsey, in the next sort of 6 to 12 months? What are you particularly excited about? What can you share with us today?
I'm working on a book that I need to keep making time for and working on my humor and adding that in there. So look out for that. Hopefully, in early 2027. In the meantime, some more speaking gigs and practicing what I preach, helping organizations put a little bit more humanity into their work so we can help humans thrive while we have all of our AI helping us be more productive.
Rock and roll. Well, that just leaves me for today to say, Kelsey, thanks very much for joining me.
Heck yes. Thank you, Bill. It was a treat.